This screencast video is going to take you step by step through how to develop your Audacity podcast project. So first we'll start with how to develop the script. So the Voices website, which is linked off of Blackboard, kind of takes you through the process of describing how do you come up with a good plan for developing a podcast, and it takes you step by step through that. Part of this project is also to develop an outline for the show, so you see that there's a download for the podcast show outline. That document is also linked on Blackboard. But this is a template that allows you to go through and say, here's your topic, here's your host, here's what's happening in your podcast, etc. So you'll build a script for the project using that particular document. Step 2, once you've developed your project outline, is to obtain your software to develop your podcast. To do this, you click on Audacity, which I consider to be one of the best free open source audio recording podcast platforms out there. You click on that site, you download Audacity to your computer. It's also important to download the Lame MP3 encoder. This piece of software is an extension onto Audacity that converts the file Audacity produces to an MP3 file, which allows you to embed that into your blog site. The next step then is to use Audacity to create your podcast. It's a very simple platform to operate. First, you choose your speakers, what speakers you're using. In this case, I'm using my headset, so I select the headset. Your microphone, I'd recommend using a headset microphone if you have one. If you do use a desktop microphone, make sure that you're close to it so you don't get a lot of external background noise. And I also recommend making sure that you record in stereo, because that quality will be better when you post it to your blog site. To use the platform, you strictly click on record, which I'm going to do here, record a little bit of audio. So it's recording now what I'm saying as well as broadcasting to you. Now I'll play that back.
So it's recording now what I'm saying as well as broadcasting to you.
So it creates that audio. You can also then add other audio piece in. Like for example, if you want to import a piece of audio you've recorded and put it back to back, you can go to import, select podcast example, then you select that file, copy it, go to the place that you want to insert it on the file above, paste it, then you can delete the second and you have both pieces of audio back to back.
So it's recording now what I'm saying as well as broadcasting to you. This is an audio file I created to take you through the process of developing a podcast and uploading it to your Blogger site.
One of the advantages of doing this is that you can put music breaks in between that. And so any piece of MP3 audio that you own, you can pull up and put in that where you want it in the context of your podcast. Once you finish the podcast, then you're going to save it. So you use File, Export Audio. You want to make sure you select MP3 here and wherever your location is. That's where the Lame encoder will then automatically come in and convert this file to an MP3 file, which it saves. Now we'll go through the process on how you get your MP3 file from your desktop to your blog site. So we use the web apps login. That takes you to the site that contains your login to your comp server. If you click on web and apps, it'll ask for your UARK login and it takes you to this main page. Notice that there's a file called public HTML, and you choose that particular file to upload your content. So you notice here I've got a piece of content that I've already pre-recorded. How I got that here was that I chose the file. I would go to my desktop or wherever the file is located, hit upload files, and it dumps it in. So now that you have that piece of content there, you will be able to use the link to it to embed into your blog site. So if I click on that,
this is an audio file I created to take.
You notice it plays that file. If I copy this web address, I can then use that web address to embed the audio into my blog site. And so that'll be the piece that we go through next. Now we're going to go through the process on how do you take that audio file, podcast that you just created, and embed it into your blog site. So I'm using Blogger here, so I've got my Blogger page opened up. I'm going to develop a new post, and so I hit New Post. Make sure that you're selected on the Compose page and not the HTML page. From this, you're going to choose, what do you want to call this? So this is my podcast. You'll select that particular text, and you're going to click Link. I noticed it's going to say text to display my podcast. It's going to ask for the URL. If you go to your web docs, which is your host server, you right click and copy that link where you were able to listen to your file from the CompUArch server. Go back to your Blogger page, paste that in there, and hit OK. Now you've created a link to your podcast that will show up in your blog. So you publish that into your blog. I'm not going to say anything about that, and we'll go to the View Blog site. So now notice we've got the podcast listed here. It says My Podcast.
This is an audio file I created to take you through the process of...
And I click on that podcast, and it takes me right to that audio to listen to as someone that would be observing my blog.